Wow, I didn't know that. Oh, 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 oh. Sorry. Well, it's official. We've run out of things to talk about here on Curator on the Loose. So today, you're going to learn about space. In fact, the big book of space. Let's get started. Oh my gosh. This really is a very large book. Page 1 of the incredible history. U.S. mail. I wonder what this could be. All right. In case you didn't know, we get a lot of questions on our episodes from you, the awesome viewer. Some are legit questions, others are mean. Stop it. While others are just kind of goofy. We like all three, except maybe for the mean ones. Usually about my hair. Can't do that now. Okay, anyway, let's see. What do we have here? Okay. Oh, this is an easy one. This comes from our B17 YouTube episode, and it's from Bullseye Cooper, 1739. I like it. One question. Inside the G model, were they left bare metal or painted interior green? If you got into the cockpit, that was painted bronze green. It was a very dark, kind of bluey green. But everywhere else tended to be natural metal because there was they were aluminum. They weren't going to last that long. So if you're building a model, which I'm assuming you are, go ahead and paint that sucker natural metal. And if you want to, sometimes even the ribs were primed chromate green. So you could go with that route. That would be kind of cool. Okay. Thank you for the question. Let's see what else we got. From Gsnaxton. Gnsaxton. If I'm pronouncing your online persona name incorrectly, please write in and let me know, and we'll do a retraction. We really won't. Okay. If a B-52 was configured as an airliner, how many passengers could it hold with in-flight refueling on an around-the-world flight? So I did some research. A B-52H bomb bay is 6 feet wide by 28 feet long. A 737-700 cabin is 10.3 feet wide by 79 feet long. What you also need to know is that on average, a person in an economy class seat takes up about 1 square meter or 10.79 square feet, meaning that you can cram 15 and a half people in the bomb bay of a B-52H. But you need an aisle. A typical aisle is 15 inches wide. So now you can only get 12.32 people in the bomb bay of a B-52H. That is not what I call a money-making opportunity. So while it would be cool, nobody's going to do it. Just doesn't make any sense monetarily. Plus, I didn't even account for a lavatory. So if I'm going around the world, yeah, I'm going to need a lavatory. I'm old. Come on, give me a break. Okay. B17 again. Brent Ritchie 6199 wants to know, why doesn't he just admit that he is old Owen Wilson and this is his real passion? Yeah, you're probably right. I was going to work on my Owen Wilson impression.
Great. Wow.
And it was horrible. So anyway, Okay, what do we have here? Dueling Duos Warhawk versus Oscar from Neil A. I wish you had mentioned why the P40 canopy appears to be backwards. That angled corner at the lower front is weird. That might make a good on the loose topic. Weird features of various aircraft. You're right. That might make a cool one. Okay. Look for that in the coming months. So the P40 that we have in our collection is a P40N. It was a lightweight version of the Warhawk. Only carried 4 50 caliber machine guns instead of 6. They made some other modifications to the aircraft to lighten it up, and you will notice that that weird canopy only appears on the end. Now, I can't tell you. I looked it up, couldn't find anything. Don't know why it looks that way, but it's the only one that looks that way. All the earlier or later P40s had the standard canopy, so I have a feeling that it had something to do with lightening the aircraft. Less plexiglass, maybe? Who knows? Anyway, but it does look kind of weird. Good question. Again, I learned something. B-29 turrets. This is from Ed Smith 724. Presumably, the pressurization was immediately ruined by a single bullet puncturing the fuselage. Was that sudden depressurization not worse than just being pressurized in the first place? Good question, but you're assuming that the inside of the plane was highly pressurized. It really wasn't. It was pressurized to 8,000 feet, just like a modern airliner. And what I mean by that is that the internal pressure was greater than the pressure outside of the plane, which meant that unlike the B-17 and the B-24 and the B-25 and the Heinkel and any bomber you could think of, crew did not have to wear heavy heated suits, all that shearling. They weren't going to be cold because it was heated. They didn't have to stay on oxygen for hours at a time. It was like riding in an airliner. So what does that mean? If it was hit by a 12.7 or a 7.7 millimeter round from a Japanese aircraft, it's only going to punch a hole in it. It's not going to create a bigger hole. It's not going to suck people out through the hole. You don't get this like they show in Hollywood. That doesn't happen. You just lose your pressurization, then everybody in that compartment has to go on oxygen. Not a big deal. All right. P-47 from F581474X. Yeah, that's cool. You didn't show us the cockpit. Okay. Oh. Whew, that's quite a climb. All right, here you go. The big reveal. Bam. P-47 cockpit, baby. Yeah, it's missing some stuff, but that's okay. You know, this used to be a gate guard in South America, I think it was. And obviously, as a gate guard, being 100% complete was not high on the list. But it does have, you know, everything in here that mostly makes it look like a P-47. I'm pretty impressed. This is a big old cockpit for a big old plane. This is a good question. Thanks for doing that. All right, I am going back to my comfy chair and answer more mail. This is from Eric Fredrickson 5517. Why is a CIA spy plane called the A-12? In the Air Force, the A would designate a ground attack aircraft. Also, what does the SR stand for in the SR-71? I know that R stands for reconnaissance, but I'm not sure what the S stands for. Good question. So the A-12 was the 12th in a series of internal designs in Lockheed, the Skunk Works, for Project Archangel that focused on developing a successor to the U-2 spy plane. Now, what does the SR stand for in SR-71? Strategic Reconnaissance. Bingo bango. All right. You know what? We may actually... Yep. This is it. No mas after this. Whoa. Wow. Okay, we've got opinions. Saber versus MiG dueling duo. These are not questions, but comments made in defense of their winner. Not everybody agreed with my assessment that the Saber was better than the MiG-15. All right, here we go. This is from Felix GAEDE 6754. Saber wins for aesthetics alone. My favorite aircraft when it comes to that. Not a bad reason. Aesthetics, always good. Boosted controls, automatic leading edge slats, a stabilator, and the newer lead computing gun sight were refinements that gave the Saber an edge. I agree. That comes from Convair Dart 106. Were you a pilot? Probably. He concludes the major difference between the two was in the mid and later Korean War. The F-86 used more experienced pilots. In the beginning, the Russians did. So that's not really a reason to conclude the F-86 was that much better. Carl Cushman Heibels, 8159. Good point. I'm going to reread something. Boosted controls, automatic leading edge slats, a stabilator, and the new lead computing gun sight. That's what made it cool. And the winner. Anyway, there you go. Let's see. The F-86 looking mildly surprised, like, and the MiG-15 just looks astounded, like. That comes from Mr. T, 7243. Mr. Dino, 1953, has a follow-up to the mildly surprised and says, follow up to above, and that's the real difference between them. The look of mild surprise always wins against completely dumbfounded. And speaking of dumbfounded, that concludes our episode of Mailbag Curator on the Loose. I am dumbfounded that we have been able to film this many episodes. This is really cool. Anyway, thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. We also appreciate all the comments and questions that we get. Keep sending those in, and we'll keep doing kind of goofy episodes like this. I'm going to get back to my giant book of space. Oh, God, seriously, this thing is massive and quite heavy. Ugh. Oh boy. Okay. During docking, cosmonauts aboard Mir noticed that 3 of the 8 thermal blankets. Are you guys still here? Go home. Kind of like Ferris Bueller.